I'm chatting with author, journalist, and professor Hank Nuwer in this web-exclusive interview. Hank, we've been talking about bullying. There's a huge correlation between bullying and suicide, isn't there?
Yes, there is. I mean, most recently, the death of Danny Chen in Afghanistan gained national attention in the United States. This was a double-edged sword. We had someone of Chinese descent, and we had someone who was very young.
In the military. In the military.
And what has been happening is there has been so much pressure on the top brass to get rid of hazing that it has been passed on to the troop level, where they are supposed to keep their fellows in line. That has led to some really brutal situations. And in this case, the brutality caught up with Danny Chen and he killed himself in Afghanistan.
And apart from the military, we are seeing deaths, self-imposed deaths by reason of cyberbullying. We're seeing it because of shaming, embarrassing videos that are taken of people surreptitiously. All of this is a form of bullying.
It's horrific, and even with hazing at the college level and at the high school level. You know, right now a lot of our young people have less protection on their wires, you know, less insulation on their wires, I would say. And it's a very, very awful situation for a young person to feel that he doesn't or she doesn't fit in, especially if the parents want that student to be popular. A lot of pressure.
Now, in the aftermath of the Virginia Tech gun tragedy, you were appointed to the National Campus Safety Index, which is a panel of experts who are supposed to rank the safety of colleges and universities in the United States?
Yes, it's done with a carrot, not a stick. The idea is to look at the best practices in terms of trying to prevent sexual abuse or hazing, alcohol abuse. What are the things that institutions can do? What should they be looking out for? How do they report it? How do you keep accurate statistics? And there'll be a kind of ranking so that the institution, two parts. The institution can check and see where do we need to be a little bit better. But parents who are so used to looking at U.S. News and World Report and the academic rankings will say that school safety should be an important consideration. Recently in my class, I asked two different classes whose parents had looked at school safety as an issue. One out of two classes. It's not very common.
Well, talking about school safety, I can't help but mention the Sandy Hook tragedy to you. Do you think that the discussion around gun violence in the United States has reached a fever pitch to the point that something might be done to make schools safer? I
mean, we have to look at the best practices here. And again, I think that the tough love, for me, it's starting a lot younger, that we are educating our students not to bully at the first grade level, because it comes up right from the playpen, right from the sandbox, so that we do respect issues. But of course, we also have to improve the safety of our schools, just as we have our airports. It's a very, very dangerous time.
Do you think that mental illness and access to guns is an issue that has to be addressed in order to promote public safety?
Well, I think in general we just have to be a little bit smarter about the way that we use guns in the United States compared in Canada, where you have a lot fewer tragedies, if any. We are at a crisis situation. I think by using the best scientific approaches that we might be able to address this problem, but a gut level,
just on an emotional level, isn't enough?
But it's very, very difficult. We have to figure out ways of doing it that make sense, not just simply legislate for the sake of legislating. In terms of hazing, there are 44 laws on hazing. I would say 4 are adequate. The rest bite with their gums, not with fangs. We need to have either no laws at all or good laws, and that's what I believe has to happen with our gun situation right now.
While we're on the topic of the gut level, the emotional level, your books are heart-wrenching. You have addressed and described and dealt with some of the most horrific youth deaths I've ever encountered. And that's saying something, because I'm in the tragedy business as a family court judge. How does this impact you and your family?
It does have an impact, because when I was younger, my sons and I would leave funny messages on the phone, but people were starting to call. Usually when there's a death, a parent or a brother or sister will phone me and try to get some immediate background. How do I deal with the school? How do I deal with the fraternity?
And how often does that happen? How many deaths do you deal with?
We must have had 7 in 2012. We've had a death every year from hazing from 1970 to 2012, and often multiple deaths. And most of those I talk with people, or I actually look at the police reports and the death photos, which are very, very hard to look at. Let's say a young man who's been 9 hours in the water at the University of Texas for the Texas Cowboys, an athletic organization, and the parents and lawyers were called many hours before 911. That body came out. It no longer resembles a young man. The impact on me, it has been stressful on 2 different occasions. One at Chico State when a young man died a couple of weeks after I spoke there, and a reporter asked me, what else could you have said to have stopped the death? And then the second one was at Vincennes just last year in 2012. That young man did not attend my talk, but died just a few days after I talked.
How?
He died of alcohol poisoning in a hazing incident, and he goes to my backup church in Franklin, Indiana.
So you go to colleges and talk to young people and try to explain to them what exactly? What's your key message to young people?
I think the key message is that everybody should have a good time, but that no one should die for a good time. The whole idea about the real meaning of brotherhood, principles, and values, that means something, that they have to be responsible as well as having a good time. If fraternities are reduced to being underground drinking clubs, then they don't belong. If the values are there and it's true brotherhood and you have an opportunity for life to enjoy this camaraderie, I'm all for it.
And that's, do you find that young people are receptive to that message?
Mixed. For example, I talked at a college in Ohio where the young people came in afterwards, and they tried to explain, Hank, we've got to teach them precedence. We have to teach them respect. And for me, they were teaching abuse.
Well, let's hope that they unteach it, because we can't raise a generation of young people who are growing up to define entertainment as victimizing and in some cases killing other people.
It's cheap entertainment.
Thank you. Well, it's not cheap for the victim or their families, that's for sure. Thank you so much, Hank, for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you so much.